Hello everyone, Tally and Farrell here from Board of It, and welcome to our What We Played Look Back video for June.
And if you're returning to the series, thank you for returning and we hope you enjoy it. But if you're new, let us explain what this series is about. So, because we mainly review games on this channel, we only get 3 or 4 reviews out a month on average, but we play a lot more games, and part of the fun of having this channel and being part of the board game community is just getting to talk about different games, discuss different games, give recommendations, see people enjoying games we enjoy, and these kind of things. So we started doing this look back as a way to just talk about games that we've played over the previous month and what we think about them, who they'd be for. And some of these we want to talk about because maybe we'll never do a review, like Lords of Vegas. It's quite an old game. I don't think us doing a review would add anything or people would want to watch it. But they'd probably be interested just to know our thoughts shorthand. But that is the thesis behind the video. And we also give each game an award to either sum up the game or sum up our opinion in a very pithy way.
Pithy.
So, and that's our favourite part of making these videos, to be honest, the award names. But without further ado, let's get on to the games. So, we come to our first game, and this game has received the Stonks Award, and that goes to Irish Gauge because it's a game about stonks and trains. This is a small, like, sub 60 minutes game. It's part of the Iron Rails series. And basically, being part Irish, I was super taken by the title, so we got it. And it basically, the first time we played, it's just one of those games that everybody had such a great time. It was very easy to internalize the rules, and it's a lot of player interaction and silliness and fake squabbling. And
Fake. You say fake.
Well, yeah. But it was a big hit. And essentially, the idea is that you're all making competing railway companies in Ireland. You're connecting the cities and towns together. And so you can build your railway, but you can also call for dividends, where you draw cubes out of a bag, and depending what colours come out and what colours you have on the board, different railways will get paid out. So if you're doing profitably, someone else can buy shares in your company, and then that means you split the profit. So instead of getting £12 every time it pays out, now you get 6. So it becomes quite cutthroat, quite fast, and if you have the most money at the end, you win. So what do you think?
Lovely little game. We love this one. Like you said, really big, instant hit with our group. I think we've played it actually with a variety of player counts, so it's minimum 3 players, but I think we've played 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
And it works pretty well at all player counts. Maybe a little bit more fun at the top end.
Yeah, I 100% prefer it at 5.
Yeah, I mean, it's still playable at lower, but at 5, there's a bit more of the squabbling, a bit more competition for the stocks and shares, more competition for the spaces. So how the game will typically go in the beginning, it's spending a lot of time placing the trains to create the railways, to try and connect the cities. And that's how, you get started. And then as the game goes on, it becomes clear which companies are going to maybe be more profitable depending on what cities and towns they're linked up to. So then that's where the fun begins, and people start to try to buy shares, and you're trying to price people out. And it's always kind of a gamble to bid on a company that you already have shares in because you want to maintain the monopoly. And sometimes you're just bidding high just to outbid other people and hope that they concede, or
Exactly.
it's really fun. And a lot of the gameplay or fun is between the players rather than what actually happens on the board.
That's a good way to put it. I think what you touched on is that, so you have you auction off these shares. So on your turn, you can call for an auction. Say, I'm auctioning a share in Blue, which is Tally's company, for the base price. You go around and bid, and like you say, if you're the only Blue at that moment, you want to keep your monopoly and not lose your profits. So then you can be driven to bid high. And so bidding games for us are always super fun. But on top of that, you have this thing where you can drive up players because you know how badly they need it.
Yeah.
And you can make them just tank all their money on keeping a monopoly, which is good for them, but also have they overpaid for it?
Yeah, and also you want other players to spend all their money because, maybe they're you're getting an inkling that they want to buy shares in your company, and then you can sort of pretend to want shares in their company, get them to spend all their money, and then you know that they don't have enough money to buy any more shares for that round.
Yeah.
So it's always fun to try and like take that gamble as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, super fun. The art is by Ian O'Toole, so it's obviously amazing. I love the style of it. It's kind of
old-fashioned.
Yeah, old-fashionedy, but it doesn't seem dated. I think it's a really like lovely vintage style.
Yeah, if you like Ticket to Ride, but you want to annoy your family a lot more than you can in that game, then this is for you.
Yeah.
But I think the last thing I would say is going back to the player count. I do think personally it's best at 5, because what I've found is maybe I haven't played it enough, but if you play with 3 or 4, it gets a little more tricky because the beginning of the game starts and you have a bidding round for the first share of each company, and there's 5. So if you have 5, theoretically everyone gets one. I mean, you don't have to, but theoretically everyone should get one.
That's true.
But when you have like 3 players, it means that there's 2 shares extra.
Yeah.
And it's actually quite hard at the beginning to have 2 shares because you can only build like one company one turn. So often you'll have one company that's doing really well, but because you've bought these 2 shares, you've spent all of your starting money. So you don't have the money to bid in the future. And then so you build up this railway and it's paying out, and then someone else goes who only has one, just goes, well, I'm just going to buy into that, and you can't do anything about it.
That's true.
And then you have one industry with half as much money and one industry that has like no trains and makes no money.
Yeah.
So I think I haven't quite figured out the strategy for that if you end up with like 2 at the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I think why I prefer it at 5, because then it feels more even, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. That definitely makes sense.
Yep. So that is Irish Gauge. We definitely recommend it. So
you played it with some friends, didn't you? You went away, which is why
it's in this one video. Of them hated it, actually.
Hated it?
Yeah, it was really funny.
Oh, okay.
He kept saying it's a crap game.
Well, because he was losing.
No, he nearly won the second one, because I was really harsh on him in the first game, and then in the second game he came $2 or $3 behind the leader. Okay. He played really well.
Yeah.
But
wasn't a fan.
No, not for everyone.
Okay.
All right. But that is Irish Gauge, and we'll move on to the next game.
Next up, we have the In the Heat of the Night Award, which goes to Micro Macro Crime City. And I'm going to leave it to Farrell to explain what that award means, because he had to explain it to me yesterday after I've given a brief overview of the game. So essentially, it's kind of Where's Wally or Where's Waldo, depending on where you're from. You have a big map of a city with anthropomorphic drawings. What is it?
Good enough. Anthropomorphic.
Anthropomorphic drawings and characters. And it's a very busy and crowded map with lots of things going on. And you basically get a series of cases to investigate and solve. So it would be something like investigate the murder of Mr. Fox, although they usually call something more names. Hilarious. Like
Leo Moustache.
Leo Moustache. Yeah. They're very funny characters, very funny names, and the crimes are, let's say, like soap operas. So they're kind of surprisingly violent or, risque for a game involving sort of cartoon characters, but that's for us like part of where the genius and the fun comes from. Yeah. But basically, you get a case and you start with, locate the body of this person, and then it just goes from there. So once you've located them, you say, yep, they're in quadrant A1 or whatever it is, and then the case will give you the next thing to solve. So where were they going? What were they doing? Mm-hmm. And basically you can kind of follow the characters backwards and forwards in time to see where they were coming from or where they were going to try and solve these cases, basically.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the real I guess, twist that differentiates it from anything like Where's Waldo?
Yeah.
And it's through time, which is so, because you have this very heavily, densely populated city with all kinds of things happening, but everything in there is through time, and you can follow almost like any person on that map backwards and forwards. Mm-hmm. And it's incredibly well done and like so smart. But going back to the award, In the Heat of the Night is, I believe, a 1960s film. And it's just a crime film, which is why it shares the title. But in it, I believe Sidney Poitier is the main guy. And he basically, a big industrialist or something is murdered in like a sleepy, I'm making this up now, Alabama town, Georgian town, something like that. And Sidney Poitier's at the train station, he gets arrested because he's black and from out of town. Then it turns out he's a really high-ranking police officer or maybe detective, and he sticks around and helps the crime. And, you know, it's like the whole, in the heat of the night, it's very hot and there's murder afoot and stuff like that.
Sounds like quite a good movie.
It is a really good movie. I think it won Oscars.
Oh.
But, yeah, so it basically gets that award because you have a lot of murder, a lot of adultery, there's even some nude paintings in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really, there's so much charm in this game. I mean, I'm sure you've probably heard everyone else rave about it as well. But honestly, I think one thing that's interesting to say, some people say, oh, the price worth the replayability. And I just have to say that, like, it's worth it. As long as you're not like paying some weird over-the-top cost.
Yeah.
It's by far worth it just for the experience because we find it so funny. It's so much fun.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think it's going to like last us that long because obviously once the cases are solved, then they're solved. But yeah, I think we'll probably pass it along to friends and family so they can enjoy it as well, and then maybe ask for it back in a couple of years and we can solve the crimes again. So it's fun for us.
They're also making a sequel very soon. I think it's coming out in August maybe, which we're definitely going to get 100%. But also the cases, they take like 15 minutes max.
Yeah.
The first couple took like 5 or less. I will say one thing I regret is that I found the first, like a lot of them are quite easy.
Yeah.
Especially the first ones. And they do say that if you're finding them too easy, you just like do it without any clues and you try and like...
okay.
Like go back and forth and try and find everything and then like go through the questions and be like, oh, okay, did I find this now?
Okay.
But so I do wish I'd done that. So if you haven't done it yet, I would recommend trying that for like the first case or two.
Yeah. Just
to see, because the first cases are really...
Yeah, they can be quite easy.
Yeah, anything else you want to say on this? Or...
No, great game.
Yeah.
12 out of 10, would recommend.
12 out of 10. All right. So with that, we will move on to the next game. And now on to our third award, which is the Why Have I Read 5 Books in a Week award for Red Rising. And that is because Red Rising is a game based on a dystopian series of novels. And we got sent this to review by Stonemaier Games. And because of our journalistic integrity, I decided I had to read the book to know about the game.
I didn't do that. I didn't read 5 books in a week.
And yeah, I got really into them and I went down the rabbit hole and I read 5 in like a week and a half, and they aren't short books either. Every spare moment, I was like up to 2 in the morning, like not sleeping, like reading them. So yeah, that is the award. And do you want to explain what Red Rising is, how you play?
Yep, so it's a card drafting, hand management, combo building game. You essentially start with 5 cards in your hand, and then throughout the game you're going to be placing cards on a board, doing an action that's on the card, and then taking another card from the board, which will essentially give you some kind of bonus. So there's a few ways to score at the end of the game. So where you are on certain tracks that you'll move up throughout the game, you'll be gathering the helium resource throughout the game as well. So you add it all up at the end. And then but the most important way of scoring is the cards that you end up with in your hand at the end of the game, because they all have a core value, which is victory points, but they also combine with each other. So it could be that card A as a victory point condition will say, for an extra 15 points, make sure that this card is also combined with card B. So it's about playing your cards to get the when played bonus, but also you kind of want to get those cards back at the end to combine them in the most optimal way to score the most points.
I mean, as a great example, the blue cards are all about the fleet track. And essentially they'll often say, you know, if you play this, move up the fleet track 1 or 2 spaces, which that gives you like cold hard points. But if you play them, then you no longer have them. And all the blue cards tend to score on how far you are up the fleet track.
Yeah.
So it's like you're trading in the points for being far up it,
Yeah.
and somebody else will probably want to take it as well.
Exactly.
So that's the risk. It's a bit of a gambler's dilemma.
Yeah. So by playing it, you're risking someone else taking it and never putting it back on the board.
Exactly.
So
maybe they need it really
jeopardy.
badly. Yeah.
Lots of like interesting decisions though. Like, do you keep cards in your hand if you've already got two cards that maybe combine really well with each other, but maybe they have really good when played bonuses. So maybe you want to risk playing it on the board to get that and just hope that nobody takes it until your next turn and you can take it back. Or should you just keep playing cards and just hope that you end up with the most optimal hand at the end of the game? But we've been really enjoying it, and we played it a lot in June, maybe like
10 times or something. Yeah.
And when we first got it, we played it 3 times in a row, and that's how much we enjoyed it.
It helps because it's a short game as well. If you're playing with like 3 or 2 people, it's like sub 45 minutes, which is good. I think, it's not a world breaker. It's not the greatest game of all time. It's not like it's our new favorite game. It's just that it's very enjoyable and relaxing and like short. And it's just a nice little game to play a few times in a row or have as a filler game. And I think the thing as well is that a lot of what we saw before we got it were more moderate reviews or slightly negative. So we didn't go in expecting a lot. And then when we were having a lot of fun playing it, it just makes it that bit better for us. I think it's just one of those things where I guess people always expect really big things of Stonemaier, and then if they bring out like this is a much lighter game than most of theirs, and people can be a bit. I feel like they get a lot of stick for their games not being what people think they are, as opposed to assessing them for what the game is. Yeah. Like, I mean, the classic is Scythe. Like, a lot of people will play that and say, oh, you have all these big mechs and they don't do anything. Like, you barely combat, and people don't like that because they feel like they're being missold. And Tapestry got a lot of negative reviews because it was, I think the marketing's fault in this case more, but it was sold as a civilization game, and then it's not really. It's more of a resource management. It's like vaguely brushing the theme of that. Yeah,
I think you just got to take the games as they come, right, for themselves without any expectation.
So but that's the thing. So it's a caveat. But if you just want something that plays quick, 45 minutes, it's easy to teach, light. Yeah. I think all the people we've played with have enjoyed it as well for what it is. Yeah. So
exactly.
But we also have a review of this where we say everything in much more detail. So if you want to know more, feel free to check that out. It will hover up above somewhere, and we will move on to our next game.
So next up, we have the "Don't You Dare Roll Those Dice" award, which goes to Lords of Vegas.
So this is a reasonably old game. I think it's at least a decade or more. And there was a Kickstarter last year for it because they did a new expansion, and there was a lot of drama about it, which was fun. But eventually we got the copy, and this was an interesting one because of all the drama and maybe not even thinking I'd ever get it or not for 2 years. I kind of went off the idea of Lords of Vegas. I was like, oh, it's an old game. You have these bigger, flashier games now. Yeah. Does have a place in my collection. Will I enjoy it? But anyway, it came, and we've been playing it the last month. And I have to say, I'm actually really, really glad I did get it in the end. And despite it being an older game, it's just really fun. Yeah. It's almost as well something quite different to what we usually play or really have in our collection.
Feels novel.
Yeah, exactly. So the way it works is you basically have this board and there's all these little spaces on it. And on a turn, you'll draw a card from the deck. And all of these cards correspond to spaces on the board. And so it'll say A4. And then what will happen is you'll get to put a marker on A4 and that becomes your lot. And then, we'll get into after that. But once you have a lot, you can then, on your turn, pay to build a casino there. And basically, these all have pre-printed dice on them. So it might have 3 pips. So then you put a 3 dice in there. And now you have a level, not even level 3 casino, but you have a 3 casino. Yeah. And then next time a card comes up, you get a new lot. But what's this? So it might match the color of the casino you just built. And if it matches a color, then it gives you money and it gives you points. But you only get points if you own the casino, because if you have multiple colored tiles next to each other, they're all one casino, and different people can have their own dice in a casino. But the person who has the highest dice wins. So if I have a 5 and you have a 3, yes, the boss, they're the boss. So it becomes this quite, it's like, what's the word? Undercutting.
Yeah, savage.
Savage. Because, you know, if me and Tally, if I have 2 dice in a casino and Tally has 1, but she's ahead, I can pay to re-roll all the dice. Then maybe now I have a 5 and a 4 and she has a 1.
Yeah.
And now I'm the boss of the casino, because you only score if you own the casino. And what's really interesting is after a certain point, you have to, like, it's not that you score a point and you just measure them. You get to a point where you have a barrier and it says you need to score 3 points to go up like a point in a way, which means that you need to have this casino, which is 3 tiles big, and control it. But yeah, so what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think the only thing that actually does date it is the art direction. Otherwise, I mean, if it was a bit more jazzed up, I wouldn't know that it was an old game, because I do think it's really different from anything in our collection. Yeah. Obviously very luck-based, because it's very reliant on rolling dice.
And the cards that come out.
And the cards that come out.
Remember mine.
Yeah. Sorry, I've got a really bad cough.
Yeah.
But it is very luck-driven, but that doesn't mean that there's like no strategy in there.
No,
you can.
You have to think.
You have to decide on what action you're going to do each turn. Like, is it worth spending your money to re-roll the dice to try and get yourself to become the boss? Do you build a casino that you can try and take over yourself, so no one else can come and touch you and become the boss? Yeah, I've been really enjoying it. I didn't really enjoy our first game.
No, you hate it.
2-player, because Farrell just absolutely dominated me.
I nearly maxed out the scoreboard.
Annoying. I can't remember why it was. Maybe it was just like first game.
Yeah,
I thought there was a specific reason. No. I think with 2, it's actually interesting. It's more easy for one person to dominate. I think we found when we played it then with 3, there's a bit more competition for the space on the board.
Yeah, exactly.
So you actually then try to work on your own casinos a bit more, rather than the 2-player game when there's loads of space and you were just like, I'm coming for you and taking over all my casinos. Yeah. So, I mean, I liked the concept, but I just had a miserable time. But when we played after...
Yeah, because we played another 2-player and then 3-player. And it's one I really want to play again, actually, since we played that 3-player game and we haven't got the chance to.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a game that really changes with the player count as well, because it was a totally different game even at 3 compared to 2.
Yeah.
Just with having that extra play taking the casinos.
Yeah.
Because you thought you would win the 3-player game, 3-player game, because me and Martin were constantly having to re-roll our casinos, because we're both involved in each other's.
Yeah.
So there's this constant battle, and you just sat on your own, like trying to build up your empire, but it wasn't enough in the end. But yeah, no, like you say, it's a bit of luck. So when we were talking about Martin earlier, what happened is he put very early all of his money on silver. And at that point, I think when he did this, there's only so many cards of each colour. So you can do this thing where if like it's, 10 rounds in and 5 of green have been drawn and none of brown, then you're like, I'm going to build a brown casino because it's going to keep paying out.
The likelihood is it will come up,
But he did the reverse, where like I think silver had the most, and he made this huge like casino of silver, and we were like, what an idiot. And then 5 silver cards came up in a row over and over, and he had like about the first quarter of the game with like $50, and everyone else has like 7. And it was he didn't manage to last the entire game though, but what I love is you have these simple mechanics and things you can do on your turn that create these like really interactive and crazy experiences. Just like I love that you can also expand your casino by sprawling. So it's basically you pay double the price of the space next to where you have a casino, and you get to put a tile on it and make it part of your casino. But if in the future somebody draws that card from the deck, then they basically take it over immediately because it's theirs.
Yeah.
So it's always like a worry that you can sprawl, but then if someone gets that card,
Do you know what it is? It like really encapsulates the Vegas feel because even though there's like strategy, kind of everything you do is a gamble.
Yeah.
So like you said, if you sprawl the casino, you're gambling that the card will or won't come up and someone can just take over your casino. That's a risk. Or you can risk spending all of your money to re-roll the dice to get yourself to become the casino boss, but of course it's a gamble. So I think it's quite exciting in the fact that it encapsulates the Vegas feel.
Yeah. I think the final thing I would say is that what I love as a mechanism is that you put the game end card like 3/4 of the way through the deck, which means that every single card won't come up. So that's what makes this luck element of like, you can look and say, oh, you know, if I sprawl here, maybe it'll come up, but maybe it won't, because you might not have seen, you know. And there was one game that I think I lost to you, maybe the second game we played, where I'd put big money on, let's say, green coming up because it hadn't. And then the last 4 cards of the deck were all green, and there's only 9 of them. So it's like that kind of, it's always a gamble, which is what makes it so fun. Sometimes you need that game, right, that anyone can win, and you all just have a good time, and it's just funny.
Exactly. Yeah. No one's getting upset or like sad if they lose this, right? It's just a bit of fun.
But yeah, so this could have also had the Pleasantly Surprising Award, which I think we've given out before.
That's true.
But yeah, I really enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to playing more, actually.
Yeah, I want to play it now.
Yes. All right, but now we will move on to our next game. And this game has received the award for how many Warsuns is too many Warsuns?
Never enough Warsuns.
Well, not in the last game we played. And this goes to Twilight Imperium, but this time Prophecy of Kings, the expansion, which we got the chance to play a week or 2 ago.
Yeah.
Because we mentioned when we spoke about Twilight Imperium in our previous look back video that this came the day after that we played Twilight Imperium, the day I bought it for, which was super annoying. So then we had to use an excuse to play it again. So if you don't know Twilight Imperium, it's a big space epic for 1 to 6 players. Now 1 to 8. No, not 1 to 8. I don't even know why I'm saying that. Between 3 to 6 players, and now 3 to 8 players with this expansion. I think it'd be pretty miserable if you played it on your own. Quick though. And yeah, so you'll take on asymmetric alien races, you politic, you battle, you complete objectives to score points, and the first 14 wins. Or 10 if you want it to take 5 hours instead of 7. But yeah, so we tried out the expansion, and this has a bunch of new stuff, such as exploration cards. So whenever you're the first person to take over a planet, you gain an exploration card of like the matching type, and they just give you little bonuses. You can get relics, which give you really powerful actions, one-time actions. You have leaders, which give you, you know, different kind of powers to balance out the faction somewhat. And there was some legendary planets, which I had good fun with.
Yeah.
If you control them, you get a special ability once per round. Yeah, what did you think of it?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it added some interesting things, most notably the little bonus you get whenever you're the first to explore a planet.
Yeah.
I thought that was the most interesting part. I did think that maybe it added a little bit too much to think about. Not in the way of complexity, like none of it was super complex, but it's quite a busy game anyway, and there's a lot to think about. And this was just adding maybe 1 extra layer of things to think about on every turn. So, for example, the leaders that you have, there's just always something to go, okay, I'm going to do this move or this battle or this action. Okay, I need to check my technology. I need to check my leaders. I need to check this to see if it adds to that particular situation. So, I mean, it was good. It didn't hurt it in any way. I think it's just more maybe missed opportunity because I personally kept forgetting about my leaders, and then I would realise after, I didn't check that. That could have given me a bonus in that particular situation, and it's just maybe a little bit too much to check all the time.
I enjoyed because it adds new colours, and I enjoyed being neon pink. That was pretty fun. But you're right. Thing is, I think everything adds is pretty great. and it has a really deft touch in that there's very little rules overhead. Like in the rule book, it's only like 2 A4 pages basically, and it's not small font either, and that explains everything. It's just an expansion of things that are already there. You don't really need to learn new mechanics or things. You just use them. And yeah, it's like you said, it's really good fun. But then I was the Universities of Jolnar, and they're a technology-heavy race anyway. And I had so much tech in front of me. Yeah. And then you have these leaders, and then you have like relics, and then you have, and it does like,
it's a lot.
I'm like, okay, I'm going into battle, and it's like, let me check my action cards, my leaders, every one of my technologies, my relics. Like, do I need to use any of these? Yeah. So that's the thing. I think it will, depending what race you are as well, it might be better or worse. But
yeah, because I was the one, I had extra leaders actually. I had 5 in total. Yeah. So it was just a lot to scan and check. And the turns, I guess the turns aren't always that long, but there's just a lot to consider every turn. So it was adding in more things to consider. But like I said, it didn't hurt it in any way. You might as well have it there. It's just that if you can remember to use everything to its full opportunity.
Exactly. No, I think I prefer. I don't think I'd play without it.
No.
And also I think with some of the new factions, you have to include everything anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But no, again, it's not hard work to include it. It's just that you say that you might be forgetting things you have. Yeah. But yeah, that was a pretty fun game. Me and you were neck and neck again. So same as every time. I won, you came second.
Like every other game of Twilight.
Maybe your closest one yet though, potentially.
Yeah, I stormed ahead in the second round. I managed to score 4 points, which is pretty good for Twilight Imperium.
Well, second round.
So I did go ahead a little bit in the beginning, but then I stalled a bit and you caught up with me.
I think, it was a thing where you got these points early and then 1 or 2 more, and then you kind of hit like a plateau in the middle. And then I kind of like from the third round maybe steamed ahead continuously. Yeah. Then we kind of met up and went up, but then I managed to finagle it.
Finagle.
Finagle.
Great word.
In the final round, which was good fun. And also we actually did highlight videos of that game that you can check out. I'll probably have it float above somewhere. And it's just, we just show the highlights, some of the battles. We talk about like what happened in the round after every one. But yeah, so you can check that out. And that was Twilight Imperium, Prophecy of Kings expansion. So for our penultimate game, we have the award of, my goodness, what an idea. Why didn't I think of that? For Sleeping Gods. And the sharp-eyed among you might have realised that was a Hank Scorpio quote from The Simpsons. But yeah, well, you wouldn't know that. But essentially, it's got this award. We spoke about it before in our previous video in this series. And we also recommended it in our best 2-player games video. But it's a narrative, story-driven experience. You're exploring. It's very much a board game version of classic RPG video games like
Choose Your Own Adventure.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild, Fallout, Skyrim, and Elder Scrolls series. Like these kind of things. We run around, gather quests, explore the map. But essentially, this is a game that has done it correctly, and so many of the things that the designer Ryan Lockett does are so simple when you think about them, but yet there seems to be an issue with games in this genre that they're just not done or not done well, which is the reference to the award. In that, just like, what if we let people interact with the map and it didn't give them a bunch of damage and smack them in the face?
And it was fun to play.
Yeah, exactly.
What a concept.
And you always got to progress the story, even in some aspect, even if you didn't pass the challenge. Like, just really simple things that really scale up the enjoyment of this game.
Yeah. I guess it's the reason that it's in our June look back video, because it was in one of our previous look back videos when we first got it. But we've been playing it... Played quite a lot of hours this month because we actually completed our first campaign, which is why we're including it. So we've now got to the end of our first playthrough.
And at the point this video comes out, we should have literally put our review out a couple of days ago of Sleeping Gods, and that was a big review. And so you can check that out if you want to know more detail. But we can also summarize here. And I think that we very much enjoyed it. It has excellent writing. I think the mechanics are really great. And it's like we're saying before when we're being flippant that just so many of the mechanisms that, you know, you can almost always do a challenge and pass it if you really want to do it. Sometimes you have to balance, you know, it's not worth to spend all of my resources to do this challenge that gives me 2 damage. Like, I might as well just take the damage. But if it's something really important and you save your resources, you can pretty much always do it unless you get very unlucky.
Yeah.
So you can always progress with the story how you want, which is a really nice touch.
Yeah. I think I said it before, maybe in our previous look back video, which was more about first impressions, but now we've come to the end of one complete campaign. It's really not my typical type of game that I would naturally go for. I'm more target driven, I would say. So I like games maybe that, or I would always pick a game that get the most victory points as just a very simple objective. But I really did enjoy this, and I think that's in part down to the really excellent writing. Like, I did care about the story, and it was quite nice how the turns are quite fluid in that a lot of the time you kind of forget almost whose turn it was, because both of you are so engaged in the story. You can always both contribute to what's going on as well, so I think that added to my enjoyment of it as well, rather than just being my turn, your turn. It's more fluid.
But also, if you play it with more as well, it's also fluid. But yeah, I think you've said before, you brought this up, that it's just because nothing's, in all of these games, you have these rules and it's like, you can only do this on your turn and that has to be done in this phase. Whereas here it's just really loose, which is what loops back to what I was saying, where you can always complete a challenge. Because if you have a challenge to progress something, first, so all you do at the most base version is you draw a fate card and it has a number between 1 and 6 on it. And then that's what you get. Before that, however, you can commit characters by fatiguing them, and then whatever number of the skill that you're using for the challenge they have. So if Marco has 3 cunning, you add 3 to that, and then you draw the card, and it's 4, and you have 7. But then, you needed 1 more. You need an 8. So then what you can do is you can use these little command tokens you get to activate either characters' abilities or adventure cards you have. That might be like gear or items or people that are on your crew.
And you gather them along the way, right? Yeah. So you build up a supply.
Exactly. And then it's like, oh, well, if we use Bigfoot the dog, he gives us, 1 more cunning. And then so you use that, we beat the challenge. Yeah. And that's what's really great about it. And anyone can be using these adventure cards. So someone whose turn it is and go, I'll give you a command token to do that. Or they can spend a command token to use their own characters to help your challenge. Yeah. And that's what's really nice about it.
Yeah, it's really cool.
But so I think the last thing we probably want to say in this one is that we really enjoyed the journey, but the ending was we found it to be underwhelming. Probably, I guess in this video, I won't say too much about it, but you can check out the review if you want to know more, because it's a bit harder, I think, if people want to totally avoid it, to skip ahead. Yeah. So whereas we have a section for it in the review. But yeah, we really, really enjoyed this and looking forward to playing it again, because you don't see anywhere near all of the content the first time you play.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. It's like, legacy, but it's not finite. Yeah. You play through and you can just go again, because there's so much choice, because it's choose your own adventure. You can go on a completely different path the next time.
Exactly.
So
I mean,
that's
there's
really good.
Double pages of the map booklet we've never seen.
Yeah.
So so that is Sleeping Gods.
So next up we have so you're telling me all this woman wants is some sausages and some beer, and then she fulfills her life goal award. And it goes to Anno 1800.
Very well delivered.
Thank you.
So am I introducing it?
Go for it.
Okay, so this is from the famous designer Martin Wallace, most famous probably for the Brass series of games. We're big fans of Brass Birmingham. Yeah. Anno 1800 shares a little bit of the same DNA. It's hard to explain because you kind of get that Martin Wallace feel, but it's quite a different game.
It's pretty different, yeah.
But I have to say it's probably the one we're most excited to talk about this month. And we've only been playing it like the last week. Yeah. But we've really enjoyed it. And we're actually going to put out a review, I think, after this video. It'll be our next video. Yeah. So, which we're really excited to talk about it. But, so the game is that you have an island somehow that nobody else wanted or inhabited, and everyone at the table also has their own personal island. And anyway, so you begin this island and you cultivate it. You've got a few workers. You've got some basic industry. You can make bricks. You can make potatoes, farm potatoes. You can farm wheat. You can get some coal. And you have this population on your island. And I guess the meta is that you want to have the happiest island, because the core loop of the game is for each worker cube you have a card that matches like their type, and they have things that they want on them to make them happy or fulfill them, or I don't know what it is. So going back to the award, this woman might like a sausage and a beer, and then she's happy and she gives you a bonus, and then her card goes away. It's like, done. You've completed it. And the game ends when you've made all of your citizens happy. But the thing is that what they want, depending on what type of worker they are, can be more complicated or less complicated. So you have 5 types of workers. And the first 3 are ones you start the game with, and they will have basic needs, you could say. And then there's 2 more, investors and engineers, and they have more complex needs. And the way it works is these workers are represented by cubes, and they start in their little house. And then say you need to build a brewery.
Sausage and a beer.
Yeah. So you need to build a sausagery and a brewery. And how you do that is you have these cubes in their little house, and maybe a brewery needs some coal and some wheat. So you get a green worker who can go on the wheat, and then you get a red worker who can make coal, and then that allows you to grab the brewery tile from the big middle board. And now you have brewery, and in a future turn, you can use it in the same way to fulfill that woman's desires. Yeah. And it honestly, it sounds really dry, but there's just this like edge of humor to it, because these people want sausages and snaps, and like snaps, artillery and champagne. Yeah. And glasses, yeah. Penny farthing, that's a
classic. Some rum.
But it's just something about it. It sounds so dry, but it's so fun when you play it. Yeah. It's this edge, and then also the turns are quick, which we always love.
That's true.
Because it's literally like, say, if you want to make this building, you just put 2 workers like that, grab it, that's your turn.
Yeah. I think it's just really fun to build up towards something. I think it's like a satisfying feeling to have like the payoff at the end when you've got all of these different industries. Yeah. And it's just trying to figure out the most optimal way of getting there. So you know that your citizens in the future, like the more higher level citizens, need more fancy things. But in order to get those fancy things, you need to start with the more basic things. So in order to make the sunglasses, I don't know if they're even sunglasses, but you need brass and glass. Yeah. But to make the brass and glass, you need coal and wood. And it just, you're constantly building up. So it always feels a little bit satisfying. I think that's why it's so enjoyable, because you're just always trying to optimize every turn. Like, okay, I've got that worker and that worker, I can make that thing. But in the future, that will help me to make that thing.
It's definitely resource management for sure. Turn optimization as well.
Yeah, definitely.
But 2 things that I didn't mention that are very important. So the first is this thing, is that you'll probably gain workers even from the bonuses of the basic workers. So they give you more workers. And every time you get a new worker, whether you get it from a bonus or you make them or whatever, you get a new card. So what happens is you have this hand of like 9 cards at the start that you need to fill. And then it grows to about 25 very quickly or something. Yeah. And you get stuck and you're like, oh no, they have all these needs, and it's like overwhelming.
But it's a weird one, because the game ends as soon as one person runs out of cards. But at the same time, you need the cards to get victory points. Like whenever you fulfilled one person's desires, you put them to the side and they're worth victory points. So actually you don't want to run out of cards too soon and end the game, because then you are depriving yourself of victory points. So it's a fine balance of not having too many in your hand, but also enough in your hand that you can fulfill them and get yourself victory points.
And then the other thing is the trade. So what happens is there's only 2 of each industry on the main board. So if you're playing a 4-player game, maybe the 2 people in front of you take beer and now you can't get it. What do? You have these trade tokens, and you build ships that give you more trade. Pretty simple. But what you can do is if, I don't know, for whatever reason, maybe I don't want to use mine, maybe my industry is full, maybe I don't have that industry, but I go, Tally, I'm using your industry, your blue industry. She doesn't have a choice in the matter. I discard 1 trade token, she gets 1 gold, and then I use whatever that blue industry is.
Yeah.
And it's just this great thing of like, it's just so funny because you just sat there and then you go, who has sausages? And then everyone's like, oh, I've got sausages. And then people are being like, oh, I've got the best sausages. Give me, come to me. I want the money. And people are fighting over like the industry. And also you have this great moment where you're looking at this really complex industry and you're like, oh, it's going to take me 4 turns. And then the person in front of you just like builds it. And you're like, yeah.
You want them to build it sometimes because then it saves you a turn building up to get it. But what's also interesting is to get trade tokens, you need to build ships. But to build ships, you need to have also certain materials. So it's all just a big loop of needing to have certain things. And sometimes you get kind of locked in. Okay, I really need to trade with someone. I need some trade tokens. But to get more trade tokens, because I already used all of mine, I need to create another ship. So sometimes I find myself creating a ship just to get more trade tokens, just so I can trade with you to get a sausage or whatever. So,
But that is, it brings this great aspect of, what's the word, interaction. And it just makes it a bit more fun as well, because it's like we were playing with our Austrian friend, who's just doing like, he's putting on a heavy Austrian accent and be like, I've got the best schnapps. And just stuff like that. And it's just that I think the drawings of the people are very comedic as well. And so that kind of helps. Like you're looking at this guy and you're like, this is a guy who wants schnapps and cigars. Like you can
Classic schnapps and cigars.
But I think we'll leave Anno for now. It's like, we recommend it so much. It's really good fun. But we'll be putting out the review in like 3 or 4 days. So just wait it out and you can know all of this and more in detail.
Full review.
Yes. But that is Anno 1800. Well, thanks for watching what we played this month. And we thought we'd just add a new little bit to basically just say what we're excited for in the next month, what we're looking forward to. So we can lure you back in. So we've already said that our next review is going to be Anno 1800. So definitely come back in a few days for that. We love that game. We've started playing Zuli up here. We played a few times at the pub last night, which is a little card game we got sent, and we'll probably talk about that a bit in our next, I think, what we played.
Like a preview.
But that's a little fun, like building a zoo tableau builder card game. Pretty easy. We also just got our Kickstarter for Lawyer Up, and I absolutely love courtroom dramas and stuff like that. So we played one game and it was really fun, the intro game, and we're going to play a lot of that, I think. So we'll be talking about that. Probably wouldn't be surprised if there was a review at some point, just so I can talk about more lawyer stuff.
Okay, and I can feel a good skit coming on for a courtroom drama.
And then I think finally what's coming up. So I should be getting Avalon and I can't remember what the name of the new game is. But Avalon, the social deduction game, and Quest, I think it's called, the new one they made. Those are supposed to be coming, I think, like within the week. And then we're also going to get Don't Get Got, the shut up and sit down version.
So excited for that.
So we're going to be playing those, so look forward to those. And then I'm sure there'll just be other stuff. I think Power Grid we got and we haven't played yet.
I really want to play that.
So but thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really means the world to us. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel already, please do so. Really appreciate it and helps to grow our channel. But thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.